Guys, I want to show you how I'm going to modify my El Cheapo inverter. This is a Cen-Tech 750 watt modified sine wave that I bought from Harbor Freight. I think I got it on special for about 30 or 40 bucks. I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was $32. Anyway, it works pretty good, and I'm going to install this in the camper. And please excuse me for the lighting. I'm in here in my hobby workshop and really not set up for videotaping. But anyway, here's what I did. I took the front plate off, and it had just four plastic screws into the plastic. And then right here is where the on-off switch is. There's the spring and the button for the on-off switch. And that goes on this circuit board. Right here is the switch. So the spring goes over the top, and then the button pokes through right here. When you push the button, it powers up, and it has a LED that shows powered up. And then if it runs out of power, or if you have a fault or something, this other light will come on, this red light. So when you first power it up, they both come on for about 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and then if everything's good, just the green power light remains on, and the outlets are providing 110 power. And there's also a little slot here where you have this USB plug. So it has 2 outlets and a USB plug. And right now I have my phone plugged into the USB plug just for testing this. And then I have it rigged up with just a small 12-volt battery to power it so I can test it out. But what I did was I pulled out this circuit board, and I determined that it just slides in a slot right here. I know it's hard to see, but it just slides out. And I looked at the back side of where this switch is, and it has, get this darn camera to focus, it has 6 pins for that switch. So if you want to do this, you can look at yours. Let me try to give you a good shot of the back of this circuit board. And you can see that center trace comes up here, and I soldered a wire to it. I could have soldered it down here where my fingertip is, where my long fingernail is. I need to trim those. But it was just too tight to solder up against these other pins, so I soldered it right up where you see it there. That is the positive. And then the center, this other trace, comes down, and I soldered right there. That actually goes to this top row of pins. I don't know if you can see it. I know it's out of focus, but I can't make my camera focus. Anyway, so I've soldered a positive and a negative wire to those 2 positions right there, and just ran, this is just for testing, ran those wires to a on-off switch. When you flip the switch, it just completes the circuit between those 2 wires. So if I turn it on with the power button, you'll see my phone come on and try to charge. So that loud beep is my phone is pulling charge, but my battery's about dead. And if I complete the circuit on these 2 wires here, same thing. And it's hard to see, but the green LED is on, and the phone is charging. If I turn the switch back off, it shuts it off. On and off. And the switch does the same thing. on, charging, and then off. So what I'm going to do is put some extensions on here on these. I'm going to take these wires off and put some better wires on there and fasten them down so they won't come loose. And then just through the front case, there's a lot of vent holes here. I'm going to run those 2 wires out that vent hole. And then I'll show you how I'm going to make just a kind of a primitive switch so I can mount this inverter up in the battery box compartment, and then from within inside the camper I can turn it on and turn it off. That's the whole point here, from inside the camper. Now I'm not going to use a switch. I'm not going to use this switch because this is actually designed for a little bit different application. And I may eventually put a switch, but I'm going to put a couple of ends on these wires so I can just plug them and unplug them when I want to turn the inverter on from inside the camper. So I'll show you that as I progress and how it works and how I'm going to actually set that up. But I thought if somebody has one of these cheap inverters, if you wanted to do this for yourself, there's probably several different ways that you could connect this, but this is what I'm going to go with. So thanks for watching. I'll show you the results a little bit later on. Here it is after I have some good wires soldered on there. One right up here and then one down here, and then I used some hot glue to secure them so they don't get pulled off of there. Then I just hot glued them here a little bit. This will all be inside, and I just wrapped this one around. Notice how they're in different locations so that they come out about even. It's not really that critical, but I just like it to look good, so that's how it'll go. And then this piece will fit. I don't know if I can hold on a minute. See these 2 slots right here? This board just fits right in those slots. And I can't hold that and do it at the same time, so yeah, maybe so. Just like that. Pushes in there, and then I'll get it put back together and I'll show you what it looks like. I'll get my switch put back in here, and that's kind of tricky because it's on a spring. Trying to get it pushed down and get the button set in here correctly, but if you just have a little bit of patience, you can get it done. And I'll put my screws back in and show you what it looks like. That's what it looks like with it put back together. Just a vent hole here with my wires sticking out. And these I put bullet connectors on so I can connect another wire to that with this end. And it just presses in there, and the 2 wires will connect together. So I'm going to make another lead as long as it needs to be to put it inside the camper. And then what will be is what I'll do is put these bullet connectors on one end, and then all I have to do is plug that wire instead of a switch. And I may do a switch later, but instead of a wire or a switch, I just plug the 2 ends together and I've made the connection. Because for this to work, let me show you first. Here we'll turn on with a regular button. So the phone is now charging, and we'll shut it off. Is just make the connection between these 2 wires. So I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers that I have laying here and connect those 2 together. And there we go. Charging. So I'll pull the tweezers out and it shuts off. I checked this as this happens to be 12 volts. Whatever the battery power is what's going through here. So you're just completing that circuit either by pressing the button or by connecting these two wires together. And I'm only going to have to carry that lead about, I don't know, 4 feet at the most, maybe 5, into the camper to be able to turn this on and off. That way I can mount my inverter farther away and still be able to turn it on and off from inside the camper. So I'll show you what that looks like once I get it all mounted up in the camper and show you how it works.